I'm on Zoom, guys.
Would be joining. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending this webinar. I am Atam Dhawan. I'm the Chief Strategic Innovation Officer and the Senior VP of Research at NJIT. But I also one of the PI on the Art Program Award. We also are managing through our Center for Translational Research at NJIT the Art Network portal, which is coordinating all the 17 programs. As you all are aware that we have the artportal.us website to engage the community, stakeholders, the PI, faculty, and students in the accelerating research translation to market programs. At this particular time, first, I would like to express my deepest gratitude and thanks to the NSF, Directorate of Technology, Innovation and Partnership, TIP Directorate, and specifically Dr. Pradeep Fulai and Dr. Hina Mehta for their leadership and the support for this very exciting and transforming program, which already is changing the culture of the academic research and innovation enterprise to create a transformation for developing the innovation ecosystem. And this has created a tremendous impact. It started many success story for societal benefits and economic impact. One of that particular success story is featured today with the Florida State University, IGNITE FSU. It is very exciting story, success story with the Accelerating Research Translation Program, and we are all looking forward to hear more about it. But before I request Valerie and Stacey to walk us through, I would like to request Pradeep to say a few words.
Thank you, Atam. Really appreciate this. Hina Mehta, my colleague, should be joining soon if she hasn't already joined. So it's a team effort on behalf of the Technology Innovation and Partnerships and the Workforce and Capacity Building Program led by Dr. Mary Crow. We are very thankful to all of you. Atam, thanks especially to you and your team of launching and maintaining this art portal uh, that we have. And this is like the kind of thing we are really trying to do is it's a cohort mindset within the art program. That's what we are really looking forward to. And with that, I think Stacey and honestly, we are so impressed with many of the institutions that are currently in the program. Program has expanded, as you know. So we are also looking forward to the teams that will be joining us hopefully soon. So we are very excited about the kinds of successes teams such as NJIT, Florida State, Lehigh, and many others have demonstrated so far. And I thought the rationale for this was to learn from each other. That's why these are not 16 individual projects. These are really kind of a team, a cohort. And I hope, I've talked to Stacey multiple times, and Stacey, that's how we came up with you as one of the kind of inaugural speakers, if you will, for this kind of, and we'll get other teams too, because we all can learn from each other. So with that, I just want to thank all of you for being here today. And Atam, once again, thank you, especially you've been top of on all of these things. I don't know how you manage it. Last week you had that CTR PFAS event, which was very impressive. And again, growing out of what I think it just shows you, you'll hear more from Stacey and Valerie today, but I think it just shows you the power of leveraging and the power of nucleating something and then how it can truly ignite the kind of things that could happen on any campus, right? So I think I'm really excited. I'm really looking forward. So without further ado, I'll hand it over back to you, Atam, and take it from there.
Thank you so much. We always are grateful for your inspiring leadership and try to follow up with our teams. As I mentioned, the goal over here is to develop regional ecosystem for innovation translation and its acceleration for societal benefits and economic impact. And this is a living example that is going to be presented by Valerie and Stacey. So it's an honor to introduce Stacey and Valerie as speakers and presenters for this inaugural Art Network Portal webinar. So, Stacey, I don't want to take the thunder away from you. So, as you feel appropriate, please introduce yourself,
Sure,
your team, and then we look
sure.
forward to hearing from you.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Adam, and as always, Pradeep. It's such a pleasure. We really do really appreciate your support and NSF support. So I want to just say good afternoon to everyone, and thanks so much for this opportunity to share a little bit about our NSF Art Award that we affectionately call IGNITE FSU. So I think Pradeep kind of was talking about igniting things, and that's exactly where we started. We love acronyms here at Florida State, and IGNITE is inspiring the generation of new ideas and translational excellence at Florida State University. And we're just going to spend a few minutes telling you some early success and sharing with you about how it's helping to transform our thinking, our processes, and our culture at Florida State. So as Adam has so generously said, I'm Stacey Patterson, and I've had the Valerie, I think I've had the privilege of serving as FSU's Vice President for Research since 2022. Prior to joining FSU, I spent nearly 17 years at the University of Tennessee in a variety of roles, but I've always been an applied scientist and researcher, and my journey into administration actually began as an inventor and in technology transfer. So it's a true passion for me as an individual. I also co-founded a startup company based on my research, and that has really also helped to shape the way that I think about translating research and taking nascent ideas into the market. So when I met President McCullough at FSU and I learned about his background as a serial entrepreneur and his goals for translational research and outcomes and impact here at FSU, the opportunity to join and be the VPR seemed like a natural fit for my background, interest, and passion. So, but when I arrived at FSU, I quickly realized that research, translation, and application was not and had not been at the forefront for many years. This was quite the surprise for me, considering that the synthesis of Taxol, many of you have probably heard of Taxol if you've had anyone in your family impacted by breast cancer. It's a potent chemotherapeutic agent, and it had been developed at FSU many years ago. And for many of us in the field, Taxol had been a real shining example of the power of innovation and translation in academia. Next slide, please. So as I started looking at the landscape, it quickly became apparent that this one extraordinary success had not created the foundational processes and pipeline that are required for sustainable success and culture of translation. Even the awareness of the importance of this part of the research enterprise was really lacking at our institution. Of course, we then started doing some background and benchmarking among peers in the state and our adjoining states. And as of 2022, this is a figure from 2022, the data were clear that at FSU, we had a lot of work to do. I had been in a similar situation years before at my former institution at the University of Tennessee, and I knew that if we were going to turn these things around and really change the culture, that we were going to have, that this was going to take some time. It was going to take a lot of commitment, and it was going to take having the right team. But I really knew that here at FSU, we had a president, as I mentioned, who had a background and a passion for translational research, a board of trustees that had big goals for our institution, and a willingness to support. And I was obviously a new VPR that was passionate and eager to hit the ground running, but I also had so much to learn about our faculty and our abilities. So to help us guide our way, we set forth on a to develop FSU's first ever research strategic plan. And if your institutions don't have a specific strategic plan focused on research, I encourage this exercise. We learned so much. We call this plan Aspire. It's a strategic plan inspiring research excellence. And Aspire has really helped us to hone in on the areas of strategic focus and helps us guide our investments of time and resources so that we can strengthen our entire research enterprise. The Aspire plan was led out of the research office, out of the Office of Research, but it was truly an inclusive process that provided faculty and staff campus-wide with the ability to be involved and provided several ways for them to give feedback and input. The Aspire process has also allowed us to hear directly from our research community and what they were experiencing at the time and what they needed to meet their goals to go to the next level. The final Aspire plan includes 5 broad strategy areas, but strategy number 2 is partnerships and innovation. And Aspire had helped us to uncover the pain points, real or perceived, that were holding back FSU's translational research enterprise and allowed us to develop tactics to start to help to address them. Then there was a little bit of serendipity. NSF released its inaugural Accelerating Research Translation call, and when I read the RFP, it just felt like it had been written for FSU to help us overcome some of the challenges that we face. We got to work and by building on what we had already learned in our listening sessions for Aspire. We set out to articulate our roadmap for FSU success, and we were eager and appreciative of the NSF opportunity, but also of the process in developing the proposal really helped us to get on our way. So IGNITE FSU, our art project, sets out a bold vision and lays out a strategy to transform our community through connection and catalyzing our impact on Florida. Next slide and beyond. Next slide. Next slide, Valerie. One more. Through our IGNITE FSU, we have 4 primary pathways to impact. Number 1, we first had to build, or in some cases, rebuild our infrastructure. I'm going to be honest, we were truly broken in this space. We realigned the Office of Research to provide enhanced support to our faculty and other researchers. We hired a team. We did national searches and found a team. We streamlined agreements and processes, and this meant we had to take a look, and through art, we were able to take a look at everything and update it to 2024 standards. Number 2, we also knew that we had a lot of education and training that is required just to increase awareness of what's possible. We needed to make sure that all of those people across our campus who should be knew not only that they should get in the game, but really that there was even a game to get into. That's kind of where we started. Number 3, it was really clear that we needed to also be making investments in ourselves, but that we also needed to connect with others who might be interested in investing in us. And we've spent a lot of our efforts in art, in making, in our art program, in making those connections and making sure that the right people are connected. And finally, we needed to create a network of champions, our art ambassadors. We needed to make sure that everyone knew that innovation is truly everywhere in an R1 institution and that they had a role. And perhaps most importantly, we needed to celebrate that our successes. And so we've instituted several ways in which we do just that. So, as I mentioned, our first pathway to success was around infrastructure, and that meant building a team. So, with me today is Valerie McDevitt. Valerie serves as our Associate Vice President for Strategic Partnerships and Innovation. And I'm going to now turn it over to Valerie to share a little bit more in the details on implementing IGNITE FSU and some of the early successes that we're already experiencing.
Thank you, Stacey. And Stacey talked a little bit about why she came to FSU. I had about 18 years in technology transfer in another institution in the state, and I came here, serendipity for me when I saw this position. I came here to work for Stacey because we had that institutional alignment. I knew Stacey cared about this and it was a priority. We had leadership at the presidential level who also felt that it was a priority. And she handed us a great roadmap to start with. She had already gone through this process of finding out gaps and setting the roadmap. So I'm going to touch on a couple areas that we felt have been impactful in kind of getting us on our way and helping with some of that early progress that we've made. A part of that is establishing a solid foundation, fueling high impact partnerships, and making those entrepreneurial pivots when either an opportunity or a challenge arise. And I'm going to start at the very bottom, the foundation. Rooting that foundation in best practices actually enables us to move from that kind of crisis management, reactive management, to being able to really intentionally drive growth and be focused on those activities that allow us to make impacts. And the people in any organization are really a key to making that happen. So the first step in our plan was a reorganization of the office. And the office was reorganized around the goals of the grant with a clear alignment of people, skills, and functions. Dr. Patterson brought together these different areas of the institution that support research translation. And the observation was they were previously really all acting in silos and not working together in any coordinated way. Having that common leadership, clear vision and goals on where we were trying to go and what we were trying to accomplish has really helped enable these teams to work more closely together. The teams that were brought together under strategic partnerships and innovation are the commercialization office, which is our traditional technology transfer office, business and industry solutions, which is the corporate partnership office. And Stacey added a new aspect, the entrepreneurial support around technology-based innovation that really wasn't present in the previous model. And then targeted faculty recognition, which includes recognition and support for National Academy of Inventors and other things in the innovation space. And just to give an example of where these things can run amok, so if you have a corporate partnership office that's goal is to increase research numbers, and they just want to increase industry partnership numbers, they may not be working with industry to align those industry contracts with the needs of the partner and the type of the project. And so they may not be negotiating. The goal is just to get the contracts done. At the end of the day, you could end up with intellectual property or exclusivity language that actually is counter to your goals of increasing research translation. You may have given away the IP, so when a new disclosure comes in, you don't own it, or researchers now may be conflicted from working with other industry because of exclusivity or other terms in those contracts. So really looking at each project, optimizing it, making sure we're meeting the goals and working together, you can accomplish both things effectively. And another cornerstone in building the foundation is really the business operations, data, contracts, processes. This is really probably the least exciting part or the least glamorous part of technology transfer. But they really are some of the most important. And this was one of our big gap areas for the office. And mentor selection here was just so unbelievably critical. So our mentor is the University of Florida. They are also a state public institution. So they have same state laws. Their research structure with a research foundation is structured just like ours. They're also in a similar regional area that's not a large urban city. And then the relationship piece was really important. Dr. Patterson already had a relationship with these groups and had worked together with them before. I, coming from another Florida institution, had also worked with them for a long number of years. So we had a relationship, and they were able to very quickly give us, jumpstart the process for us, because they gave us all of their contracts across the board. So they gave us licenses and options and collateral agreements, even the incubator membership agreements. And it made it a whole lot faster for us to alter those documents and get them going right away. And we knew, they had their general counsel support. So all of those things went a whole lot faster because that mentor selection was so well aligned with the gap areas that we had. And so another area on the business process that really needed the time was the database. We had an older system that had been implemented decades ago. It had been very highly customized, and there were a lot of data integrity issues. And it seems like a small thing, but we weren't a small institution. We still were getting, a number of disclosures, and there was some history. And it can completely focus you in on crisis, where a very reasonable request from a college just wanting a 5-year report on data turns into a multi-day process because the departments or the colleges aren't populated or the data has inconsistencies, and you just can't answer those simple questions that are very reasonable to ask. And then you can't, and not having, because of the customizations, we didn't have the ability to track financials or post-agreement follow-up, which really made it very hard, I think, both on a compliance perspective, but it's also very important from a relationship management perspective, so that you know to follow up with those companies and you're having the ability to impact and provide support where it's needed. And I really feel like this has been an asymptotic function, that curve where you've got that long flat part and then you start to see things really starting to improve quickly. It feels like when we're correcting data and creating templates that it takes forever, but then it really starts to go a whole lot faster because your teams have the templates, your data, you could do the report that just took 2 to 3 days and 10 minutes, and everything starts to move more quickly. We aren't doing this alone, and we have a lot of stakeholders. I have my whole team, we have this slide in almost every presentation we do for faculty and researchers on campus, or some version of it. And the point is, we're trying to be clear that we're here to support them and that we can't do this without them. We know that we need them to start the culture change first. They're our most important partnership in this. And this was a gap for us. There wasn't a lot of trust in technology transfer. And we saw this, engagement was really low. We had about 50 disclosures for the 350 plus million in expenditures. And disclosures can really be that leading indicator for culture change, where they're trusting you with their work and they're trusting you to do what you say you're going to do. And so the more they start to rebuild trust and even knowledge of the office, right? Stacey said they didn't even know there was a game. The awareness that there is a game and making those disclosures and jumping into the process. A part of fueling those high impact partnerships, and this was an important one for us, is recognizing their efforts and aligning those incentives with the goals of the program. The art grant has a lot of strengths in that space. One of the great benefits is that seed translational research grant. We were able to award a number of grants across many areas of campus for a variety of projects, and these grants enable a milestone-driven, 1-year targeted impact towards research translation, and that could be prototype or licensing or a startup. And it brings faculty to the table. It makes them think about research translation, and it really helped to align their interests. And before we even started, Stacey had implemented a fast start licensing program, and that program was designed to create a more frictionless process for faculty startups. And it raised a lot of interest. It raised a lot of awareness. We've been engaging with graduate students. We just completed our first regional I-Corps cohort. We have faculty, again, some of which were in our STRP grants, some are our new faculty startups, and some are graduate students thinking about it. And that went very well, and it generated a lot of excitement. People are reaching out for when the next one is. And then we have more programs that we're going to launch in the rest of this year and the rest of the grant period to both provide funding and support for startups. One of the other pieces of the grant is we selected a faculty fellow. Our faculty fellow, Rebecca Downs, is in the College of Engineering, and she's been working really closely with our team. One of the things she's going to start working on is launching a chapter of the National Academy of Inventors here on our campus over the next year. And she just completed creating curriculum around a badge program that provides education that is focused on research translation, specifically with examples in the STEM space. And so students will be able to start to have access to that, graduate students to that badge program. FSU also has a standalone College of Entrepreneurship, the Jim Moran College, and it's kind of unique across the country. We're working very closely with them and we're coordinating, but we're not duplicating efforts. Where we've been able to fill a gap for our institution is in that entrepreneurial support that's more around technology-based startups and undergraduate students in the STEM field. So we've been working with the Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University and FSU Joint College of Engineering students, and we've had 2 cohorts of a student ideation accelerator, and it's really based around I-Corps concepts. It has really created a lot of interest and engagement from those undergraduate students. We expect to continue to provide it and probably expand it in the future. So Florida State had Taxol, which is one of the biggest early successes in technology transfer. So it was kind of surprising to me when I got to Tallahassee at the community's engagement and understanding around technology-based startups and economic development that's related to it. IGNITE FSU also includes a program that's an Innovation is Everywhere campaign. And the largest expression of that is our Discovery Days. Discovery Days is an entire week-long event where we're celebrating research, innovation, and creativity. We had 28 events last year. This is our 3rd year, almost 2,500 attendees. And it brings in faculty, students, community. It brings in everyone to participate and learn more about what we're doing in this space. One of the signature events of this week-long celebration is the Discovery Challenge Pitch Competition. And this is where FSU startups pitch for prizes. We've given away over $100,000 in these pitch competitions, in each of these pitch competitions. Each year gets better, and we see building of more excitement for our faculty, for our startups, for our students, for our local communities, our entrepreneurs, and then also for the VCs and angels and other funding groups. They come to Tallahassee to participate. And those funding people, the mentors, the leaders, those folks who would help these technology-based startups were really not engaging impactfully with FSU in the past. And that was one of the areas that was highlighted for development in the art grant. IGNITE FSU engages those folks. We bring them in to judge in the discovery pitch competition. We bring them into for those translational research grants. They were the reviewers for those grants. We've had VCs and angels come in and do talks, do educational seminars, and we've opened an investor office in the incubator. We want to be clear that the door is open to you and there's a space for you when you come to Tallahassee. And we're starting to see the pop-in of ones that have come and done talks or participated in our pitch competition. We see them popping by to talk to some of the companies on schedule. And we want to see more of that. And we want to be clear the door is open and provide more about the opportunities for them to engage with us and realize all that FSU has to offer. And since Stacey's come, we've also had more of the chamber and those local and regional economic development groups all asking us to come and talk about what's happening here in this space. And that talking about it, telling people what we're doing and making people aware there is a game is really important. For the faculty, it helps them see what's possible, and it creates a fear of missing out. And I think it also recognizes a lot of their work when we celebrate it and we make it part of the story that we're sharing. The storytelling also helps tell all of these stakeholders that FSU prioritizes research translation. The President McCullough and Stacey Patterson, our VP of Research, they place importance and priority in making translational research with industry and startups a focus, and priority that we make impact from our research. And we're hearing those folks now repeating back the story, the importance of those high-wage jobs, keeping our students and our talent here in Tallahassee. And so feeling the message getting momentum. So sometimes, speaking of pivots, sometimes you get a surprise and it's a really good one. In this case, the grant had anticipated us collaboratively working with a local development authority. They were in the process of building an incubator building that had been primarily funded by EDA and Florida State money. The opportunity in our first year came up for the building to transfer to FSU. That opportunity definitely wasn't planned, but it gave us an opportunity to take a lead role and make what we needed to happen to support those technology-based startups come in place faster. We rebranded the building IGNITE Tallahassee. And over the last 2 years, we have spent time prioritizing getting the building up and running, putting in place equipment, processes, procedures, getting programming in place, and recruiting companies. So we have the building ready to go. We have the first tenants in the building. So we currently have about 5 resident and 12 affiliate member tenants. Those companies have 18 employees and 9 student interns. These companies over the last year have raised $3.8 million. And their average wage is $90,000, which is 50% higher than the average wage in Tallahassee. The building is really focused on technology-based innovation. It's not competitive. It's different than the other resources in our community. And people are really seeing and understanding the difference and the importance of this aspect of it. And some of our other unexpected pivots have come more around the process of sort of going through and picking up those rocks and looking under them. And sometimes there's nothing, and sometimes there's something good, and sometimes there's snakes and spiders that you have to deal with. And so in this process, you don't always know. And as you're going through those assessments, we really, depending on what we found, we've had to kind of stop the process and make sure we address anything we found and put ourselves in a position to move forward. So are we there yet? No, but I think we're really on our way. There are some areas where we actually took a step back when we started aligning our processes and procedures with standard practices and aligned our reporting with autumn definitions. In some areas we went down. But identifying those gaps and really working through that roadmap has shown a steady increase in areas like disclosures, which really are that leading indicator of culture change. I think we're now moving towards the steeper part of that asymptotic curve. We have a pipeline of contracts right now. We have 2 more months in our fiscal year. Right now we're at 18. We have about 24 that are in active negotiation. So I have confidence that we'll have the highest year of licenses and options we've had in 4 years. And maybe among the most important is those faculty, in many cases who weren't interested, are now engaging with our team, and they're reaching out and they're wanting to do more with us. And so looking back, I can't believe it's been 2 years. But on the other side, and how much we've accomplished in that 2 years, but I think we're very impatient. There's so much more that we can do. FSU is an institution with a very high level of research. We have a tremendous legacy in technology transfer. We have these unique assets. We have the National Magnetics Lab at the university and other areas that are very unique areas to partner with research, with companies and other folks. The environment is very rich in opportunity for research translation that can provide an impact. And this IGNITE art grant has really had a tremendously transformational effect in jumpstarting that effort, in making the program move forward very quickly. And we appreciate your listening to our story, or this part of our story. Hopefully there'll be more, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Valerie. Adam, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, just a quick remark. Congratulations. I mean, this is a tremendous story, and it's a kind of a role model to all of us to see that how this trajectory and the timeline has evolved, and created tangible impact, which is very clear through these key performance indicators that you pointed out. And it is the evolution, it is the start, but it is on a pathway to impact, as Stacey pointed out. So this is not a very large audience, but we are very focused and interested people in the attendees list. And we can see Stacey, Valerie, and I can all see the name of the attendees. So if you would like to raise your hand to ask a question, I think that probably would be the quicker and most efficient way. And Dan, our media services, is controlling, so they can unmute, and then you can ask the question. So, yeah, we have Dan. Are you monitoring the hands? Yeah.
Looks like Caesar has
Yeah.
his
Cesar
hand up.
Bandera. Yeah.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Cesar. I don't know whether Caesar can unmute. Dan, are you hearing me? Dan, are you hearing me?
Maybe they could put their question in the chat.
Yeah. So, Cesar, by the way, if we are working on this, if you could put your question in the chat. We can also monitor that.
Maybe Atam, while we are waiting for Caesar, uh,
Yeah.
I wanted to just ask about Stacey and Valerie about one thing, which they pointed out is the importance of how well your mentoring institution has worked with you, University of Florida. And I think that is something we emphasize. I think this is something I'll also ask all the other teams to kind of really leverage. And you guys have done a really phenomenal job. I know you mentioned about having relationships. That's, of course, one part of it. But we are really, when we look at mentoring institutions, we are really looking at like a peer-to-peer, institution to institution kind of engagement. And I think you've made it very, very clear as to how they were able to kind of fill in some of the gaps because time is of the essence, right? We don't have uh, tons of time, right? So the easier it gets easier once you have a really good mentoring institution. Atam, I'm sure you see that with your own mentoring institution as well. But I think that's. I just wanted to point that out that this is really, really a key, and that's why we have in the expanded solicitation we started requiring a mentoring institution, right? And Hina is on the call too, so Hina, feel free to ask any questions or comments, whatever you may have.
Pradeep, I appreciate you saying that. I think Valerie made some really good points about the uh, the fact that the mentoring institution is in our same state, and we are really governed by the same laws, and we're part of the same system. That's actually helpful because we have some of the same challenges. I'm not sure it's required, but it certainly has been helpful. I definitely think too that the fact that we live in the University of Florida and Florida State University are both in small cities in Florida too, which I think helps because culturally there's some similar opportunities and similar challenges, so we can learn from each other from that perspective. And even though we don't agree and don't get along on football fields and basketball courts and baseball diamonds, we really do work really well together. So, so I see some questions here. I think it says you identify P&T committees as a stakeholder. I'm not sure.
The So on hang on the slide that relates to internal stakeholders, some of the areas where we are focusing on things that were important to internal stakeholders, one of them is promotion and tenure. So for the internal stakeholder of our faculty, it is an important topic for some of them, and that's a long culture change. And so we've been fortunate to have Rich Carter and the PTI group here last year as a part of our innovation celebration. He went all over campus at FSU and FAMU, met with deans and faculty and administrators, people all in all aspects of the promotion and tenure chain. And then we're working on that second visit where he'll come back. So that's a part of the culture change journey that really relates to our internal stakeholders.
And the follow on to that is can you describe how you brought them into the trans research fold? Were they already recognizing such efforts? It's actually no. I think we were not recognizing these efforts, and that's an ongoing conversation, frankly. I think that it's that will continue to be a conversation probably throughout our entire award, because changing P&T is a big lift, I think, anywhere, but particularly at an institution like Florida State. Valerie, this one what specific actions were most effective in increasing faculty trust and disclosure activity? I'm gonna answer a little bit of this for you. I think when we hired Valerie and the team, I think the being responsive and the follow up and having conversations with faculty that weren't you must do this or you must do that, but really having a dialogue with them, I think, has gone a long way. At least that's what I hear most from faculty. There's a trust built because they believe that our team has the background, and we are flexible, but also we have a great deal of follow up.
Yeah, and I think, and one of the things I probably should have went in more detail, like the Office of Commercialization, we really have recruited people that have deep experience in some of the areas that are a higher level of our researchers' disclosures. And like and then we have a couple people that were in the process of training with one of the technology licensing managers that we recruited has a PhD in computer science with a lot of AI background and had worked for some different startups. At this point, about 30% of our disclosures have some AI or software component to them. We're really seeing faculty embrace that, and he's able to jump in with all the other licensing managers and really give them some guidance around, intellectual property or some of the other aspects of it, and especially keeping that in mind as we look towards commercialization. So trying to have those teams, instead of being very siloed, like you only support this group and you only support that group, we're really focusing on the technology and people working together where it would benefit the process and help faculty.
So the next question I see here is, how do you support faculty who are interested in startups but have limited business experience? Do you provide hands-on project management, market assessments, regulatory guidance, or investor preparation? So do you want to?
Sure. So we're not running the company for them, but we're providing aspects of that support. So from the commercialization office's perspective, we're working closely with them. We have a very easy, fast start licensing process. It really puts none of those fees on the front end. It's all on the back end. The front end is really focused on them working through what they think that diligence and development plan is. And then through the process with the entrepreneurial education and training at the incubator, we have law firms that come in and they talk about corporate structure and what kind of management agreements you need with your partners in that business, how to take angel and other money, and the importance of, how your cap table is structured. We have other experts come in and talk to them about all aspects of from helping with HR when you're small and you have a problem employee to working with regulators. We try to bring in mentors and so more on the mentor and entrepreneurs in residence. If you have a regulatory or other issue, we try to find you someone who's been there and done that in the startup space and make that connection, because that might be a one-off, maybe not a lifetime. It's not a business coach, trying to find them a mentor who's more of a business coach. So we're sort of listening to those faculty and trying to figure out where they are on that journey and making those resources available. And we also give a first year free affiliate membership to those startup companies from FAMU and FSU, so that we can help get them started more quickly. But it really is an iterative process where we're also listening, because we're trying to add program and other resources in the incubator that they need, that they're identifying that they need.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd echo a little bit about those support mentor networks. Faculty typically aren't the best CEOs always. I mean, there are absolutely exceptions to that, but I think thinking about how do you encourage postdocs or graduate students who have that kind of entrepreneurial spirit to really think about that, and then, as Valerie said, surround them with strong mentorship, can really be a recipe for success.
And
Go
I
ahead.
just want to follow on what you said. The I-Corps it was fun to watch, because we had a lot of graduate students who are really at that point where they were interested and they were thinking about it and being the entrepreneurial lead. Like, it was really fun to watch. There was one individual particularly who was really dug in, that they had all the answers and only want to interview other faculty. And by the end had talked to a ton of industry, had like a ton of aha moments. And she's still just like, this, everyone should do this. So I think giving them the opportunity to go through programs like I-Corps, I think can also really help on in them making the decision if they want to do it and just the way they approach things in their career going forward.
So this next question is an evaluator on one of the art grants. Could you please provide some details on some of the metrics being collected for social impact? And secondly, have there been direct impacts of the art grant engagement numbers and other metrics that wouldn't have happened otherwise? And I can start with that. Absolutely. So I think the art grant has given us kind of a foundation, a platform from which to bring lots of people in. Valerie mentioned several of those, like the um, that we likely wouldn't have been able to do, at least in the time frame that this has really been able, it's really accelerated what we've been able to do. And so, it's also been a big part. Valerie mentioned Discovery Days, which is our week-long celebration of innovation and research. That's new in the last couple of years, and bringing in, we might have done a version of that, but this art award and Ignite FSU has really allowed us to expand that and really focus on and provided some resources that allow us to speed up that process a bit and to really focus on things that we think are most important.
And I think like on the hard metrics in our grant, we already had a lot of those hard metrics, like numbers of licenses, disclosures, number of mentor pairs, how many seed translational grants were awarded, where are they in the process? So we had set out a bunch of, numerical metrics that we were going towards, as well as providing certain amounts of impact through this education and training. So having enough training, having these different things like the badge program that target these areas around our gaps. And Florida State University is different than the other places that I've been. We have a very large engaged faculty population in areas like education and social work and a lot of other areas. And so there is a lot of impact in those areas that may not be huge. It's not going to be Taxol like technology transfer wins. It's not going to be that kind of money a year, but helping to get those technologies to students, especially in areas around reading and math education and all that. Like we have the opportunity by making those things available and working with those programs. There's dyslexia screening tools. There's a whole bunch of technologies in a lot of these spaces that make an enormous impact on people. And it won't probably be, a bunch of startups, and it probably won't be a ton of licensing dollars, but there will be a lot of people impacted as well. So, and then some of it is gathering those stories. Like one of the fundamental things we didn't have was there wasn't language in any of our agreements that said people had to report back. And not on those, so I gave you numbers of the number of jobs and the number of student interns and the average wage. Those are all numbers we're building. We're asking folks to provide us now in our current agreements. Some are providing it because they want to be part of the conversation, and some are just not because they don't have an obligation to. And so we're working on gathering that information from folks as we move forward.
Those are all the questions I see in the Q&A, Adam.
Yeah, that's a perfect timing because we planned for 55 minutes and this is right 12:55 now. So first of all, I thank you. I'm very grateful to you, Stacey and Valerie, for your enlightening presentation, and it's really very inspiring. And I also wanted to thank the audience for attending the webinar, the inaugural webinar. We are very much encouraged, and if there are other art program funded institutional representatives are in the audience, I would like to make an appeal to all of you that share your success stories on Art Network portal. And we plan to have 2 to 3 art network portal webinars, sharing our success story, sharing even our challenges and the innovative solution. Because whenever you start any transformative program, there are challenges. We know that. And we know that traditional academic environment, which is driven largely by the P&T expectations and the evaluations within the academia, may not be able to recognize the entrepreneurship and the contribution towards the intellectual property as compared to the publications and the other precursors. But with the Technology Innovation Partnership Directorate programs, and specifically the art program, we are transforming that culture. We are increasing significantly the institutional capacity, appetite, understanding, and risk-taking strategies for innovation translation to market, and again for societal benefits. But along the way, as you have showed in the incubators and the technology transfer licensing, we are going to be creating bigger and bigger economic impact. So this is all good. I just will go back to my appeal to other art-funded institutions to communicate with us. We will be very happy to plan and schedule your webinar, and we'll send out the communications that you have received for this one. We will also feature you in the Art Network portal newsletters, and with the permission of the presenting institution, we will put the recording and some summary that we will work with the presenters on the Art Network portal. So with that, again, thank you both, Valerie and Stacey. I'm requesting Pradeep and Hannah, do you have any closing remark?
Hina, go ahead, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Adam, for organizing this. And Stacey and Valerie, this was really, really good to see all the progress you have made. And it speaks volume to all your hard work. So congratulations on that. And, I know it's kind of a lot of work has gone into it, and the way you kind of brought everything together is going to be very helpful to our current art awardees as well as our future, awardees. And so we really are grateful for this presentation. I just kind of want to ask one question, that what you still see is a challenge that is kind of, persisting in this research translation activities on the campuses, so that when we onboard the new awardees in coming days, we can be like, again, prepare ourselves that, what to expect from them, and not set high expectation. But again, like, realistic expectation from them, as well as, guide them accordingly. So
I can give I'm happy for Valerie to add. I think the promotion and tenure piece is a conversation that is going to take multiple forms, that probably depending on what the institution, where you are at the institution, and really we've got buy-in from the very top. And it's still a difficult conversation. And so I think don't underestimate that, what that's going to take. And then I think the persistence and really thinking about the Art Award is 4 years, and we are so very, very grateful to NSF and to you and your team for giving us this opportunity. But we've got work to do to make sure that we can sustain the momentum. And so that's top of mind.
If I could quickly make a comment and extending what Stacey has pointed out, my understanding is that all the technology research universities, or STEM universities, they at the top level leadership, they all know the value of the translational research and entrepreneurship. And they have, you know, created some initiatives through the strategic plan and through their leadership towards supporting this cultural transformation. But all of us realize that the promotion and tenure process is not the top down, it is a bottom up process. It starts at the department level. So, what we need to do through these STRPs and through this support and mentoring infrastructure for our faculty to realize the added value proposition for advancing their academic accomplishments through the translational research. Once they see that particular benefit, and once they see that this is not only accelerating the research translation to market, it is also accelerating their academic professional development and the career goals, then certainly it is going to infuse in the department P&T committee and the process will continue.
Well, and Adam, I think that's exactly right. And we all know that faculty are kind of like their own little companies, and that's why I think it's so important that we start at the undergraduate and graduate level so that
Yeah.
people are aware that this should be part of I was very fortunate. I was a named inventor on multiple patents during my graduate work, and that experience really transformed the way I think and those kinds of things. And so I was very fortunate to have mentors who recognized that. So I think getting graduate students and even undergrads involved as well, I think will help over time.
Yeah, the added part to that one is that the students are the future leaders. They are the future of our society. So while we create the internal transformation in the academia, we need to send the ambassadors out to continue that external transformation to enhance the university, industry, government, community partnerships. Because without those partnerships, you cannot establish the regional ecosystem and you cannot get the full accelerated benefit.
Correct. Well, thank you so much for having us.
I'll just very quickly point out that we would be, uh, I just wanted to mention that Lily Massa, who is one of your
Yeah.
students, undergraduate students,
Mhm,
when she was at NSF as an intern
mhm.
last summer, she's the one who actually came up with the idea of artisan program, and I just wanted to make sure she's mentioned because
Yeah.
she must have graduated now, but
Mhm.
she was amazing, and part of the thing that you mentioned about getting students engaged, that's why those activities are really important because Atam, you're absolutely right, Stacey. Our hope is that it's not just about inventions and startups, and those things are important. It's also, we are very clear-eyed that we are not trying to say fundamental research, basic research is not important. That is absolutely critical. So this is not a substitute, but it's one more pathway for faculty to succeed, for universities to celebrate their successes. So it's like icing on the cake in many ways, right? You're really trying to build on what has already been invested in basic research in many, many disciplines. Societal impact is a very big piece of what can be shown. And I think universities will only gain significantly in terms of
Yep.
sometimes we worry about existential, things about universities. I think this is a great way to show the society, to show your stakeholders, show your board of trustees, show your alumni. This is what is possible. This is what we are doing. So I think that's really kind of the big picture view of the accelerating research translation program, and that's why we are very excited. That's why we are really.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you again, and it was a successful inaugural webinar, and I'm very grateful to all of you for your participation. And keep watching, many more to come.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Have a great day.